Hello everyone, this is Richard from Modern Healthspan. Today I'm going to look at Bryan Johnson's oral health protocol. Bryan spends a lot of time and money on his longevity protocol and gets the best advice, so I think it's interesting to see what he chooses to do. I have also included what I am doing for my protocol. Perhaps the first point to address is, why is oral health important? There are many papers on this subject, so I have just included a couple of examples. Before we get into that, a couple of definitions related to oral health. Our mouth always has a microbiome, but this can become disrupted with an excess of pathogenic bacteria. Initially, this may cause a disease called gingivitis, which is an inflammation of the gums. This is normally caused in response to a buildup of plaque. If left unattended, plaque can harden into tartar, which requires a dental hygienist to remove. This can be done at a regular checkup. Gingivitis is generally cleared up by good oral hygiene. Gingivitis can progress to periodontitis, where the bone and gum around the teeth become inflamed and recede, and this is also due to bacteria infecting the tissues. Periodontitis can lead to loss of teeth and is normally addressed with a process called deep cleaning. I've had this done, and it took 4 sessions of around 30 minutes each with a specialist. Poor oral health is linked to higher risk of Alzheimer's disease. This is an observational study, so it will only be showing correlations, not causation. But it had 31 million participants, of whom 1.2 million had poor oral health. The risk ratio between those identified with poor oral health and those without was 2.3, which is to say that they were 2.3 times as likely to suffer from Alzheimer's by the end of the follow-up period, which was 5 years. The conclusion is that oral health is important for AD risk regardless of age or sex. I cannot find much information on why oral hygiene is so important, but it's probably because of the buildup of harmful bacteria are transported directly from the mouth to the brain, where they can infect the brain cells. This second paper is a review of the impact of oral health on the risk of cardiovascular disease. The main mechanism for oral health to impact CVD is through inducing chronic inflammation and the impact it has on the comorbidities such as blood vessel health and high blood pressure. This paper did not provide numbers for the increased risk, but in the conclusion they say that available data strongly suggests periodontal disease may have overall health consequences, specifically pertaining to CVD, and that therapy to reduce periodontal disease may contribute to improved outcomes. So that is why it's important to have good oral hygiene. What does Bryan Johnson do to maintain his? The first step is to use a water flossing device. This is a machine which pumps a thin stream of high-pressure water that you can run across your teeth and gums and removes a lot of the debris from your teeth. He uses a handheld device from Waterpik. I also include this step, and I use a Waterpik device as well. I use this one, which is a countertop model with a separate tank, and you can set the pressure for the water jet to where you are comfortable. I generally use it at around 6 out of 10. I also have a handheld device, which I use when I'm traveling. The issue that I find with the handheld device is that it has a smaller water tank that runs out of water before I'm finished and needs to be refilled. The Waterpik is great for cleaning your teeth of debris after a meal and can get into areas which are hard to reach with a toothbrush or floss. A water flosser is not a substitute for a traditional dental floss or brushing. Speaking of which, the next step for Bryan Johnson is flossing. So Bryan Johnson uses a threaded floss and picks a wide variety as it's meant to clear more plaque. I use one of these, a combined toothpick and flosser. I like it because it's more convenient than holding the thread. My dentist suggested using a small interdental brush and possibly dabbing it with toothpaste. I do this sometimes, but not regularly. Bryan uses a non-fluoride toothpaste and an electric toothbrush. I use an old-style manual toothbrush, but like him, I do use non-fluoride toothpaste. For me, this is based on the talk from Dr. Nathan Bryan, who says that fluoride will harm the oral microbiome. and lower the body's ability to produce nitric oxide, which in turn raises blood pressure. I do not know whether this is also the reason that Bryan avoids fluoride toothpaste, as he does not mention it. That I can see, it should be noted that the message from dental health sources is that fluoride toothpaste helps to reduce tooth decay. And finally, he uses a tongue scraper, which he calls a game changer. Since I've watched his video, I have also taken to using one, though I must say I think that the water pick is more of a game changer than the tongue scraper. Here is the device. The idea is that you use it to scrape the top of the tongue clean, removing bacteria, skin, and other debris. It just takes a minute or so. The devices are cheap, and since Bryan Johnson thought it was a good idea, I've decided to give it a try as well. Bryan has 2 other protocols listed on his webpage that he did not discuss in his video. I have not tried either of these, but for reference, they are a Q10 gel. This is an antioxidant and is proposed to help fight periodontitis when rubbed over the affected gums. I have found studies showing that oral CoQ10 can help with periodontitis, and some dental blogs claiming it was effective. The other is tea tree oil, which comes from an Australian tree. It is used in traditional Australian medicine for skin diseases. It is antimicrobial, and there are some studies showing efficacy in chronic periodontitis. I did find one paper on CoQ10 and tea tree oil that concluded both were significantly more effective when compared to a placebo. Bryan likes to get everything measured, and he talks about 4 measurements which can be used to gauge the status of your oral health. These are pocket depth, which is the depth of the gap between your teeth and gums. The smaller, the better. Attachment loss, basically how well fixed the tooth is. The plaque index, and how easy it is for the gums to bleed. I have not had these measured, and I guess they would need to be done by a dentist rather than something you can do at home. Bryan also recommends to avoid some items such as sugars, especially sticky ones like chewy candies, as well as acidic liquids such as sodas, which have a lot of sugar and are acidic. These are generally things you should be avoiding anyway, though unfortunately coffee and tea are also acidic. Bryan recommends getting teeth cleaned by a dentist every 6 months, and this is something that I should do as I do get plaque buildup on my teeth. And in the past, I have not always looked after my teeth well enough, but I am making the effort to do so now, especially as I better understand the importance. Thank you for your attention, and I wish you all well.